CRIS is a virtual moderator that uses AI to conduct text-based interviews at scale. CRIS stands for Conversational Research Insight System, and CRIS collects both qualitative and quantitative data on a secure web-based messaging platform. No app is required, and anything that you can do over text, you can do with CRIS. You can send images, you can send links, you can send emojis, and have respondents reply back with them too. CRIS was designed by qualitative experts to replicate moderator best practices by keeping respondents focused and engaged, and by demonstrating empathy. So let me show you how that works as we jump into the CRIS chat experience. Here is what the CRIS chat looks like for participants. The web-based platform is 100% device agnostic, so if a participant is chatting with CRIS on their mobile device, it resizes their screen to fit properly. I'm now going to demo how the moderator best practices of focus, engagement, of empathy are incorporated into CRIS. CRIS uses focus to keep participants on task, grounded in the research. Discussion guide is programmed in advance, and CRIS introduces itself as a virtual moderator, and the researcher provides the wording so that CRIS can set the stage, just like any qualitative project. The discussion guide can contain any combination of open-ended and closed-ended questions. Then, using your guide as a structure, the AI provides follow-ups to keep participants on task. So right here is an example of an open-ended question. Here's an example of a closed-ended question. And then here's an example of CRIS keeping participants on task. So like in this example, the person said, "I don't know," and then, or something else along those lines, and CRIS will say, "Please try to think of something," and then repeats the question. Engagement is achieved with more advanced follow-ups and personalization. Relevant probing happens in the moment when an answer doesn't seem sufficient and results in more in-depth responses. In this example, there's a short answer here. And CRIS is responding with, "What can you tell me about the alone time?" And just like a good moderator, CRIS will also get participants to explain what they mean by the main adjectives that we have in English language. So CRIS doesn't let a participant off the hook when they say if they like something just because it's convenient. CRIS will also ask what's convenient about it. Plus, CRIS provides encouragement and affirmation along the way, just like a moderator would. Empathy is achieved by using sentiment analysis using the Google Cloud Language API. Each response is analyzed in real time for sentiment, and if it is negative, CRIS responds appropriately. Just in this example, CRIS is saying, "That doesn't sound good. Do you have anything else to add?" This shows how empathy is used during the discussion, and we also use sentiment analysis in the reporting as well. The last few features that I'd like to demonstrate are how to set up closed-ended questions to configure skip logic with the CRIS chat. In this example, we answered less often, and then CRIS followed up with, "What are the reasons you'll be commuting less often?" And then there would have been a different follow-up question for more often and about the same. I also want to show you how CRIS can share a simple image within the chat itself. And if the stimuli is even more involved, CRIS can send a link for the participant to review. CRIS will always save the participant's spot in the chat and if the window ever gets closed by accident. Now that you've seen what the CRIS chat experience is like, let's move on to talk about how the automated reporting is with CRIS, and I'll also walk you through our case study. The automated CRIS reporting includes a page for each qualitative question that includes the Google Cloud Language Sentiment Score along with relevant quotes. It also includes an AI-derived summarization of the themes represented by a superquote. The report gives you a really good top-line understanding of what's happening, and if you want to dig deeper, you can refer to the Excel file which contains all of the data. Now I'm going to share a case to show how we were able to incorporate qual into a large quant study for approximately the same cost as 4 focus groups. For this project, we partnered with a quantitative research firm, Phase 5, on a large study across Canada and the US to understand attitudes and behaviors around both personal and business banking for business owners. In total, we had 602 small and medium business banking customers go through a 25-minute research experience. For the quant phase, we had them rank their satisfaction with both personal and business banking and provide ratings on a variety of aspects related to the customer experience, innovation, and user experience. After that, they moved on to the qual part, which is a one-on-one interview with CRIS, our text-based moderator, to understand the reasons behind those ratings. And finally, we followed up with another quant section to get the final demographic questions. Through this design, we were able to get qualitative insight from literally everyone in the study. This allowed us to drill down into numerous segments after the fact without having to recruit different groups as you would have to do in traditional qualitative. For example, we looked at customers of large banks versus credit unions or versus regional banks. We looked at different business owners by size of business and by tenure of business. The study was completed in 3 weeks with 650 plus completes with a hard to reach target. Now I'm going to share you one example of how having qualitative data matched to all of the quantitative data helped us get depth in the findings. A key finding from the study was that in Canada, participants rated their satisfaction with personal banking higher, 47% top 2 box, compared to business banking, which is at 33% top 2 box. In the qualitative interviews, we had asked participants the reasons why they rated personal higher, and we looked to that question to understand the reasons. We quickly saw that some of the reasons for rating personal higher was framed in the context of the differences between the banks themselves. Some simply dealt with a different bank for their personal and then business and said things like, my personal bank is in my neighborhood, or I've dealt with my personal bank longer, so I have a better relationship there. We also realized that to have an apples-to-apples comparison, we should be looking at businesses that are dealing with the same bank for business and personal, so that we could easily sort the data that way. Once we did that, clear patterns emerged that help us understand different treatment that small and medium businesses feel they get. Small and medium businesses feel they get more attention on the personal side than on the business side. For example, one participant said, I have a financial planner for my personal banking, I don't have one for my business banking, really. Also, compared to their personal banking at the same bank, business customers felt that the business fees are higher and less transparent, and they don't feel that their business is as appreciated. For example, one participant said, because my small business is very small, the bank doesn't value what I do, even though I have a 2-year track record. That's just one example of how technology can be used to capture a wider range of qualitative data. It gave us the ability to separate insight from different segments without having to recruit different groups to do so. So being faced with 600 interviews to analyze, you may think that getting through all of them would be a daunting task. As you can see, this is only 10 responses to one question. Tell me about a time your bank really impressed you with meeting your business banking needs. We got 5 responses from the US and 5 from Canada on this slide. One less optimal option to start to see what was going on between the US and Canada would be to run a word cloud. And as you can see here, the differences are not so apparent. So using our text summarization solution, which is built into the reporting for CRIS, it pulls out the prominent themes from the data and is generated automatically. This gives us an overall view to help spot differences between Canada and the US, with the top line understanding what's going on in the data. So here's an example of the real output of the prominent themes coming from the US and Canada to the same question. Tell me about a time your bank really impressed you with meeting your business banking needs. We see here that there are certain themes emerging that give us a head start when analyzing the data. Like from the US, we see that their banks are helping them when they're encountering fraud, and this idea doesn't come up in Canada. And for Canada, we see that the Canadian businesses are a little bit harder to impress, with the idea that they haven't been impressed since the 80s or 90s. So when we take a step back to think about the value that adding qualitative for every participant for the study, we're able to get deeper insights overall, but also on a more granular level by segment and by the quant data trends. Using CRIS, we were able to do this for about the same cost as adding 4 focus groups and didn't add any more time to the study. However, CRIS didn't replace the value needed for good discussion design. Someone knows, and the idea that someone who needs to know how to write a good qualitative question can't be replaced. To sum up, CRIS provides deep insights thanks to layered participant responses in a way that is definitely faster and less expensive than traditional methods. And I hope I have helped to uncover how you can incorporate qualitative input more often to help your organization make better business decisions. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about CRIS or other research tech at Methodify, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you very much for spending your time with me today.